Look at the markets with Absa. South Africa's annual consumer price inflation rose slightly last month to 3.6%. This is in line with economists' expectation. Statistics South Africa says on a month-on-month basis, prices increased by 0.2%. For more on this and the latest business and financial market developments, we're joined by Lindile Malgas, investment strategist at Absa Investments. Lindile, good to have you with us.
Good afternoon, Tammy, and good afternoon to the listeners as well.
So perhaps let's start off, Lindile, with an idea of your thoughts on market performance so far this year. Yes, granted, it is only 20 days, 21 days into January. But what has been your analysis and any patterns that you've started seeing emerging? Some of the key drivers, perhaps, for those observations as well in market movements.
Yes, I would say it has been a short period of time since we started the year, but it certainly has been an interesting start so far. Some of the trends that we are seeing are trends that are persisting, particularly from last year. So, geopolitical tensions, we've seen those continue to persist with the tariffs that have been imposed by the U.S. Administration and threats of further tariffs as well. This, of course, has led to gold prices edging even higher, albeit market participants were believing that they are a bit elevated. So certainly seeing some of the themes from last year continuing to persist into this year. And if you look at the market performance and what that's meant for markets, it is a bit divergent across the different regions. So emerging markets have tended to do fairly better. So our local markets are up 4% so far, and that has been driven by the resources sector, predominantly on the back of the gold and platinum prices, those continuing to stay higher. Then if you look at the likes of the US, S&P 500 this year, more or less trading flat, so down about 70 basis points. And today markets are also opening negative in the US, so down about 2% so far. So it's been a pretty interesting start to the year.
So taking a look at Stats SA, they've released inflation figures for the month of December. What is Absa, or what are Absa's views rather, on the latest numbers and your inflation outlook as well for the year?
Yes, so certainly the figure did come in line with what markets had expected, and in terms of what we expected as well. We did expect it to come in at 3.6%, so ticking up slightly from the prior figure that we saw in December, so around 3.5%. This was also on the back of higher fuel prices, so the base effects on that are starting to seep into the amount, so reflecting some of those higher fuel inflation and some base effects on the housing costs as well. Then if you're looking at your core inflation, that's still remaining below headline inflation, so coming in at 3.3% and also coming in line with what markets had anticipated. And then I think what will be key following this inflation print that we saw will be the SARB's thoughts on inflation and the path that they are pursuing on interest rates. And that meeting will be next week, but certainly not expecting a cut at their first meeting, which they'll be holding next week.
So let's take a look at some company news for the moment and for today. We see that Karoo Ltd, they've released their third quarter results this morning. Can you unpack those for us?
Yes, so in terms of the results we saw this morning, it was a good set of results, quite solid financial performance from the company, seeing earnings per share that being up by 11%. Operating profits up about 14%, and we are seeing that the business is being supported by your stronger subscription numbers, and Cartrack also continues to grow, so seeing quite healthy subscription numbers there as well, and also the amount of members that they've been able to add within the subscribers, those are aiding to drive the revenue. And then in terms of management, they also reiterated that they are focused on growing the business and they are investing into strategic points within the business. So your likes of your video and Cartrack tag. Markets were a bit concerned on the back of this, and we did see the markets are selling off the share slightly. because they were concerned around these investments and how they will impact margins in the short term. But I certainly do think that over the longer term that it does support the business's fundamentals overall.
Lindile Malgas, thank you so much for taking us through the markets for today.
Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you. That's Lindile Malgas, investment strategist at Absa Investments.